Hey YouTube, Philly J here with Different Dimension Gaming, coming at you with a Blue Eyes White Dragon deck profile. So, as you're probably aware, Blue Eyes White Destiny structure deck just dropped. Deck is crazy. You could legitimately walk into a locals with 3 of this thing and top, maybe even win. I just got second at my locals with this build. I'm very happy with how it played out. I'm very happy with the decisions I've made and the card count. We're on a clean 40, 15 in the extra. Let's just dive in. So obviously, we're going to start with 3 copies of Kaiba's iconic Blue Eyes White Dragon. It's not really a brick in your hand anymore. I mean, again, you don't really want to see it. And again, you don't have to play 3. At this point, you can just play 2 and you'd still get away with a lot of stuff. But I'm on 3 just in case the 3rd one comes up, which again, it does sometimes come up, and some of the cards require you to have a Blue Eyes in the grave, so you always want at least 1 there. Again, you can play 2, I play 3, just a personal choice. Next, we're going to play 3 copies of Maiden of White. This is a new card that came out in the structure deck. You can discard her from your hand to activate a True Light from hand, deck, or graveyard. If you would special summon a Blue Eyes, you can summon her from your graveyard once per turn. And if she's targeted for an effect or for an attack, she can summon a Blue Eyes or a level 1 tuner from your graveyard. Okay. 3 fantastic effects, 100% a mandatory 3 of in the deck. Then we're going to play 3 copies of Sage with Eyes of Blue. This card on normal summon will add any level 1 light tuner from your deck to your hand. And then you can target an effect monster you control, discard this card from your hand, send that monster to the graveyard, and then summon a Blue Eyes from your deck. So again, 2 pretty good effects. The normal summon effect is fantastic because it can search stuff like your Maiden of White or even like a hand trap like Effect Veiler. Then we're going to play 3 copies of Neo Kaiser Seahorse. Again, this is a newer card added into the structure deck. If you control Blue Eyes White Dragon, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then you can target 1 other light tuner you control, either increase or decrease its level by 1. And then if this card is sent from the monster zone to the graveyard, you can send 1 Blue Eyes White Dragon or 1 monster that mentions Blue Eyes White Dragon from your deck to the graveyard. And this card is really useful for going into your level 12 Synchro. It's kind of just like the hard way, I guess would be the way to say it. Because in this deck you can cheat out a bunch of Synchros in your extra deck. Then we're going to play 1 copy of Blue Eyes Jet Dragon. This card says other cards you control cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. And then you can only activate each of the following effects if you have a Blue Eyes on your field or in your graveyard. So if a card you control is destroyed, you can summon this card from your hand or graveyard. And then if it battles, you can return a card your opponent controls to the hand. Just keep in mind that the second effect there, the one that when it battles, is a targeting effect, so you have to be careful on what you choose, especially if you're in a mirror match, you don't want to give your opponent a free Blue Eyes from the deck. And for the last of the Blue Eyes monsters, we're just playing the 1 copy of Dictator of D. I was messing around with a copy of Master with Eyes of Blue for a bit, but I don't think it's really worth playing, especially because this deck has got such a good grind game as it is. But Dictator of D, if it's in your hand, you can Foolish Burial of Blue Eyes to special summon this card. And if you control a Blue Eyes monster, you choose the attack targets for your opponent, so you can always send them into the biggest thing that you have. And then for final effect, if he's on the field and you have a Blue Eyes in your graveyard, you can discard a card to special summon the Blue Eyes from your graveyard. Very, very cool card. It's not a mandatory play. I also mess around with it at 2. I think it at 1 is where I'm at for a final build. For the spells and traps, new addition to the deck, probably the best spell in the deck, we're playing Wishes for Eyes of Blue. This card is absolutely incredible. So you can activate it and then discard 1 card to add a level 1 light tuner and a spell or trap that mentions Blue Eyes White Dragon from your deck to your hand. This card is incredible, and even if it just did that, it'd be a good card, but it's got a second effect where you can banish it from the graveyard, target a Blue Eyes you control, and then equip a dragon from your extra deck to that Blue Eyes, which immediately gives you Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon access. And just a phenomenally good card, and the art on it is fantastic as well. Then we're going to play 2 copies of Roar of the Blue-Eyed Dragons. When this card is activated, you can special summon in defense position a Blue Eyes from banishment, graveyard, or deck, so it's anywhere except your hand. And you can summon any Blue Eyes monster, but if you don't control Blue Eyes White Dragon, you have to summon Blue Eyes White Dragon. And then it's got a second effect where you can banish it from your graveyard to fusion summon using monsters from field or hand. And again, that effect doesn't come up very often, but when it does, it's usually a game-ending effect. And then of course, the field spell, we're playing the 1 Mausoleum of White. And the other one we're playing is an Ultimate Fusion. Again, I thought about playing this at 2 as well. I think 1 is the play. So Mausoleum of White, during your main phase, you can normal summon a level 1 Light Tuner as a second normal summon in addition to the first one. So if you don't normal summon and you get this activated, you want to use the additional normal summon first. Just in case this gets removed, then you still have your regular normal summon. And then you can target a monster you control, send a Blue Eyes to your, send a normal monster to the graveyard. You're sending a Blue Eyes. Send a Blue Eyes to your graveyard, and that monster gains 100 attack times the level of the monster that you send. And that pairs really nicely with your Maiden, especially if you open 2. You can use the first one to get your True Light, the second one you can normal summon and then target it to get this effect, and then you can summon a Blue Eyes from your graveyard. Ultimate Fusion. During the main phase, you can fusion summon a monster using cards that mention Blue Eyes White Dragon from your field, hand, graveyard, or banishment. Shuffle them into the deck, and then you destroy cards your opponent controls equal to the number of Blue Eyes White Dragons that you used on your field. So if you had 1 or 2 on the field, you destroy that many cards. So I misspoke. You can't use banishment for this. It's only hand, field, and graveyard. I'm playing 3 copies of Primite Roar. This card, you declare a normal monster or a Primite monster and you special summon it from your deck by paying 2,000 life points. And then if this card is in your graveyard, when your opponent normal summons a monster, banish this card from your graveyard, reveal a normal monster in your hand, field, or graveyard, and then banish 1 monster on the field with less attack than the revealed monster. So because you're always revealing Blue Eyes White Dragon, and because this is the normal monster with the most attack, this effect is always live on a normal summon. So remember, it has to be on a normal summon. And then just to stop interruption, we're playing the 1 Called by the Grave, negate the hand traps, deal with whatever your opponent's doing. Just 1 more interruption, really. For the traps, we're playing 1 copy of True Light and 1 Majesty of the White Dragons. So True Light, your opponent cannot target Blue Eyes White Dragon in your monster zone with card effects. And if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, destroy all monsters you control. So huge downside to this card. However, during either player's turn, you can activate 1 of the 2 following effects. You can special summon a Blue Eyes White Dragon from hand or graveyard, or you can set 1 spell trap directly from your deck that mentions Blue Eyes White Dragon in its text with a different name than the ones you either control or are in your graveyard. So because Wishes and Roar both have the effect that lets them banish themselves from the graveyard, you can always reset them with your True Light. And then for Majesty of the White Dragons, reveal up to 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons from hand, field, or graveyard. Then destroy an equal number of cards your opponent controls. Now, it's important to know this card does not target. So that's a really useful effect, especially for something sticky that can't be targeted by card effects. Then you can banish this card from your graveyard to ritual summon a Blue Eyes. We're not going to use that effect, but it's important to know if you want to play more than one with your True Light combination, you can banish it, ritual summon, and then you can set a new one with your Majesty. Oh, with your True Light, sorry. And then for some tech cards before the hand traps, I'm playing 3 copies of Dragon's Light and Darkness. So you can activate one of the effects on this card, but you can only activate each effect of this card once per turn. So if you open all 3, you can use all 3 effects, but you can't use the same effect twice, if that makes sense. So you can either shuffle one level 8 dragon monster from your hand into the deck, and then add a level 8 dragon with a different attribute from your deck to your hand. Target a dragon monster you control, it gains attack equal to its level times 100. And then when a card or effect activates that targets a dragon you control, you can negate that target's effects. So it's a crazy card because it has 3 different effects. It's an interruption, it kind of fixes your hand, and it's an attack boost just in case. And I pair that alongside with Dark End Evaporation Dragon. This card, you can banish a level 8 dragon from your extra deck to special summon it to the field. And then when it's on the field, you can either target another monster on the field, make this card lose 500 attack and defense, and if you do, destroy that opponent's monster or that other monster. And it can also be a fusion card because you can fuse itself with another card from your hand or field. So it's just kind of a polymerization on legs, and that's a really important card when we get to the extra deck. For the hand traps, we're on a pretty standard lineup. We're playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom, 3 copies of Effect Veiler, and 3 copies of Imperm. Again, with your Sage with Eyes of Blue, this is searchable to give you that searched interruption on your opponent's turn. Very cool card, and all 3 of these cards are in the structure deck. On to the extra deck.
There's no preparing for this! I fusion summon! Behold, Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon!
So this card is ideally the one you're going to equip with the banishment effect of your wishes, but in extreme cases, you can actually fusion summon into it with your Roar of the Blue-Eyed Dragons. So, on the field, it needs Blue Eyes White Dragon 3 times. At the end of the damage step, if this card attacked, you can send a Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon from your extra deck to the graveyard, and this card can attack again, and you can activate that effect twice. We don't really use that effect. The effect that we do use is if it's in the graveyard and your opponent targets a Blue Eyes monster that you control, 1 or more, you can banish it from the graveyard to negate the effect and then destroy that card. So crazy card in the graveyard, crazy card on the field if you want to run a more basic Blue Eyes deck and you want to play those regular Ultimate Dragons. Then we're on 2 copies of Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon. I will say, I won a game off of this card on the weekend. This card is absolutely fantastic. It's unaffected by trap cards. Just start there. But to summon it, you either need a Blue Eyes White Dragon and another dragon monster, or you can send a Blue Eyes White Dragon equipped with a dragon monster from your field to the graveyard and special summon it from your extra deck. Now it's important to know this counts as summoning it properly, so you can bring it back with something like your Roar of the Blue-Eyed Dragons. And then if this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can set a trap from your graveyard back to the field. And because it just resets a trap, you can reset any of the traps that you're playing. So again, very good card. And it is also a level 8 light dragon. So you can fuse it with your Dark End Evaporation Dragon to summon the Light and Darkness Dragon Lord. So this card needs a level 8 Light Dragon and a level 8 Dark Dragon. It must be fusion summoned. And while it is face up on the field, when a card or effect is activated, you have to, these are mandatory effects. This card loses 1,000 attack and defense, negate the activation. It doesn't destroy it, but it just negates the activation. This is a mandatory negate, so it's 3 mandatory Omni negates. So you want this to be the very last thing you do on your turn. And then if it is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can target one dragon in your graveyard and special summon it. So again, it can help you recur back your Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon. Very, very good card. I am genuinely in love with this card. I'm trying to play it in as many decks as I possibly can. For the Synchro lineup, we're playing 2 copies of Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon. It needs 1 tuner and 1 non-tuner Blue Eyes monster. Neither player can summon 2 or more monsters at the same time. So if your opponent would be on something like a pendulum deck, they can only pendulum summon 1 monster. Or against something like Exo Sisters with the effect of Martha, they can't do that because it summons both monsters at the same time. And then it has 2 more effects that are each a quick effect. So the first one, if a card or effect would be activated in the graveyard, this can negate that effect. And then on your opponent's turn or your turn as a quick effect, you can tribute this card to summon a different Synchro monster, Light Dragon Synchro monster from your extra deck. And the best one to Synchro into is the Blue Eyes Ultimate Spirit Dragon. Now, if you were to hard summon this, you need 2 or more tuners and a non-tuner Blue Eyes monster. Your opponent cannot banish cards from your graveyard, which is a fantastic effect because this deck loses pretty hard to Bystials. And then you can only activate each of the following effects once per turn. So if a card or effect on the field would be activated, you can negate the activation, and if you do, this card gains 1,000 attack. And then if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can summon a Light Dragon monster from your graveyard except for itself. Again, very, very powerful card. So the other 2 monsters we're playing in our Synchro lineup can also be summoned off of Spirit's effect. You can also just hard make them in this deck. One is Azure Eyes Silver Dragon, and one is Light Storm Dragon. So Azure Eyes Silver Dragon needs 1 tuner, 1 or more non-tuner normal monsters. When this card is special summoned, not synchro summoned, special summoned, dragon type monsters you currently control cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects until the end of the next turn. And then once per turn during your standby phase, you can target 1 normal monster in your graveyard, special summon that target. So it is a protection card and it's a reborn, which is absolutely fantastic in this deck because it lets you continue pushing through your plays. For Light Storm Dragon, this is a brand new card that came out in Supreme Darkness. I strongly recommend picking it up. Needs 1 tuner, 1 or more non-tuners. If this card is special summoned, you can target spells and traps on the field up to the number of normal monsters in your graveyard plus 1. Destroy them. And then if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target a spell trap in your graveyard, set it, but it cannot be activated unless you control a normal monster. You can only use each effect once per turn. But again, it's on special summon, not synchro summon, so you've got protection from your opponent's cards, and then you've got a backrow removal for your opponent's cards. Our Xyz lineup is very small. We're playing 1 Indigo Eyes Silver Dragon and 1 number 38 Hope Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy. So again, this is a new card that came out in the structure deck. Needs 2 level 8 dragon monsters. Cannot attack directly unless this card has a normal monster as Xyz material. You can only use each of the following effects of Indigo Eyes Silver Dragon once per turn. If this card is Xyz summoned, you can negate the effects of all face-up cards your opponent currently controls. So just on summon, this card is a Dark Ruler no more, but your opponent still takes damage. Then you can detach one material from this card, target one normal monster in your graveyard or banishment, special summon it, and if you do it, gains 1,000 attack. So if you Xyz summon it, you can negate your opponent's whole board, then you can activate the effect to detach a Blue Eyes, and then summon back the Blue Eyes, and suddenly it's got 4,000 attack. Hope Harbinger needs 2 level 8 monsters. Once per turn, when a spell, trap, card, or effect is activated, you can negate the effect and then absorb that card to this card as an Xyz material. And then if your opponent were to declare an attack against anything besides Hope Harbinger, you can activate its effect to detach a material and then redirect the attack towards Hope Harbinger. So it helps you protect smaller stuff like your Link 1s or your Link 2s, your smaller guys, just to redirect them into this guy. Speaking of links, we are playing 2 copies of Spirit with Eyes of Blue. This is the last new card that we're playing out of the structure deck. Needs 1 level 4 or lower dragon or spellcaster monster, which means any of these guys can be used to summon into it. And if it's summoned, you can add a Mausoleum of White from your deck to your hand. So, classic Yu-Gi-Oh joke, the Link one that searches the field spell. But you can also attribute it from the field to summon a Blue Eyes monster from your hand or graveyard. But if you summon an effect monster, it cannot attack and its effects are negated. And finally, the last card in the extra deck, we're playing 1 Hieratic Seal of Heavenly Spheres. Needs 2 dragon monsters. And it's important to remember that your Neo Kaiser Seahorse is a dragon, which is a fantastic inclusion in this deck, fantastic choice. It makes going into this super duper easy, especially because then you also get the Foolish Burial off your Neo Kaiser Seahorse. For the effects of your Hieratic Seal, once per opponent's turn, if this card is in the extra monster zone, you can tribute it to return a card your opponent controls to the hand. And then if it is tributed, you can summon a dragon monster from your deck, but its attack and defense becomes 0. So the first effect triggers the second effect. Just a fantastic inclusion in the deck. Again, this is in the structure deck. The only things in our extra deck that are not in the structure deck are these 2 cards. Everything else is in the structure deck. That being said, that's the Blue Eyes deck profile. Let us know what you think. Let me know if you think I can make any improvements to this deck. Make sure to like and subscribe, and before you go, we have a special message from Kaiba.
If there is intelligent life out there, then let's teach them how to duel.